He's an introvert, interviewing strangers from the internet, knocking down the walls of his comfort zone, one conversation at a time. This is the Gary Cantrell Podcast.
Yes, we are back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I do greatly appreciate it. Glad that you're here. Come on in. Make yourself at home. Welcome to another edition of the Gary Cantrell Podcast. And on today's podcast, I'm going to introduce you to my new friend, Kaela. Kaela's really awesome. I'm really looking forward to talking with her. I've been following her over there on the Instagram at McKenna _ fitness. She's phenomenal. She's done some amazing things, and I have a hunch about this one. I think it's going to be a great show. But before we get started, I have to tell you about my friends, the Patreon podcast producers, Daryl at Your Level Fitness, Kaitlyn at Kaitlyn Elise. You got to put 3 Y's in her name. You know I tell you this every week, all right? If you haven't followed her or any of these folks by now, you need to get on it. But 3 Y's in her name, at Kaitlyn Elise, because she's 3 times as awesome. Vanessa at Vanessa Ray's Journey, and Amanda at Mutts _ Miles. Literally, these people are helping to keep the lights on, and I have a challenge for the listeners out there, because you know we have this Patreon thing. It's a great way to support the show. If you can, throw a couple of bucks. But here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to sweeten the pot here. So I have a goal for the month of January that if we can sign up 5 new patrons, that I'm going to do a $50 Amazon giveaway. $50. Man, you must think I'm crazy. I can go crazier. If we get 10 people signed up on Patreon, it could be either the $4 tier or the $10 tier. I'm going to do a $100 giveaway. Yes, it's actually going to happen. A $100 Amazon gift card giveaway if we get to 10 new patrons by the end of the month. I'm looking forward to this. I'm hoping we can make this happen. Look, I'm just trying to get some more support in for the show, trying to build up some new equipment here, as well as pay for some travel, because the goal of this show ultimately is to take this thing on the road. Like, if I had even just $1 from everybody that listened to this show, we could be on this thing full time. I could show up to your home, your favorite coffee shop, whatever it is, and we could do the podcast together, face to face. But it all starts with your support, folks. Patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. And don't think that I'm just going to take your money and run. I'm giving you benefits, right? I am giving you the show 5 days early. And all these ads, like what you're hearing right now, you don't hear any of these as a Patreon subscriber. You hear none of them. You literally start the show, I shout out the producers, and the show begins. That's how this works. But you get it 5 days early. The MP3 is actually a higher quality than the normal one that you're hearing here on wherever you're hearing it from. It's actually a higher bitrate audio, and you're getting the podcast early. What could be better than that? $4 a month gets you in the door. $10 a month gets your name shouted out on the show every single week on the weekly podcast here. Every single week. Think about this. If you're in a business, how much money do you spend in Instagram ads or Facebook ads, and what return do you get? Well, for $10 a month, I'm going to literally drop your name, your Instagram handle, and your business potentially, if you have one, every single week. So there you go. There, I said it. Patreon.com/Gary Cantrell is the way to do it. I've also got merch. That's right. Hardworkalwayswins.com. It's not just a clothing line, though. It is my mantra. I speak it, I wear it, I live it. And I want you to wear it because I think you're going to look a lot better in it than I will. Who writes this stuff anyway? Actually, I'm making this all up on the fly. No, it is my clothing line. And it's a message. It is a message that is near and dear to my heart. Hard work always wins. And if you go over there now, you can check it out. Use the coupon code podcast for 10% off your very first order. And we actually lowered prices. We moved over to Teespring. We lowered the prices. We got better customer service now, better tracking. We're doing some awesome things with Teespring. So you can check that out over there. And finally, yes, finally, flyingpigmarathon.com. You may have heard me talk about this. You may have heard other Instagrammers and Instagram podcasters talking about this amazing weekend in Cincinnati. They do 5Ks, they do 10Ks, they do half marathons, full marathons. They do it all in Cincinnati, and a bunch of us meet up for this event. This is an awesome meetup for a bunch of us there in Cincinnati. You got to come check it out for yourself. Use the code Gary10 at checkout to get you 10% off your race registration. Do not delay. The prices are going up on January 31st. So come on in, hang out with us, flyingpigmarathon.com. All right. With that out of the way, let's go ahead. Let's dive right in. Let me get Kaela here on the line. I am so excited to talk with her about her. I'm excited to hear her story. So let's get her on and see what she's got for us. Here we go.
Hello.
Kaela, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Other than Skype being a total pain in my ass today, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing on a Tuesday evening?
I'm good. Tired. Very tired today.
Okay, so tell me this. Are you an early morning riser? Like, do you do all your workouts and stuff like in the morning?
No, not at all. I am so far from a morning person. It's disgusting.
All right, well, what time do you get up in the morning?
I get up, okay, so I start my alarms at 5:45, but I don't get out of bed until like 7:20.
Oh my God. Okay. This is going to make you sick to your stomach. So you said 7:20, right?
Yeah.
I am out of bed 5 hours before you, 2:45 a.m.
What? No, there's zero shot. Zero.
Dude, it is unbelievable. Like, I just started this back in October. When people are hearing this, by the way, this is January. It's already the new year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes. But I started this back in October because I just wanted to shake things up and just completely get out of my comfort zone. Because one of my big things is finding things that I take comfort in and just shaking it up like a madman. So one of the things I said, Kaela, was that I would never, ever get up early in the morning. I said, you know what? Afternoon workouts, that's all for me. That's all I'm doing. I'm never getting up early. And here we are.
Yeah, God bless. Zero way.
Have you always hated mornings?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I've just, I don't know. I never was like super excited to wake up. Like, it was like if I could sleep, and it's, what's worse is like when I don't have to wake up early, I wake up at like 5 a.m. and I'm like, oh, but when I do have to wake up, I'm like, no, I'm going to snooze until I legit can't anymore.
Right.
I've just never been a morning person. I don't know. It's just never been for me.
And where's your wife at with the mornings? Does she like mornings or no?
No. The job that she had before the one she has now.
Yeah.
She was a music teacher in a private lesson school.
Awesome.
So she didn't have to be up in the morning. She was able to sleep until whenever she wanted and didn't have to go to work till like 2, 3 in the afternoon. Whereas now she works in an office setting and she has to be there. She leaves before I'm even up. So,
oh boy.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that she's like a morning person, but she's definitely gotten more accustomed to waking up in the morning.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out, as far as like spouses, like where they're at with the mornings. Like, I know my wife, she does not really care for the mornings. I mean, she's in a position where she has to get up somewhat early, but nowhere near me. Like, she's kind of in your camp where she's up around like close to 7 o'clock, something like that. And God forbid on the weekends when I'm not planning to get up early, I still wake up early and usually I'll go out for like a walk or do some yoga or something. And like, she's like, oh God, you're making so much noise. Drives her nuts.
I do that too, and I purposely wake up my wife on the weekends because she wakes me up on the weekdays.
Right.
So it'll be like 7 in the morning on a Saturday. I'm like, "Hey, good morning." She's like, "Are you kidding me?" No, definitely not.
What's the most creative way that you've ever woken her up? Like, you like blast a song or like come in, closing doors loudly. Like, you ever done it like in a fun, creative way like that?
Honestly, so you know how when you just know somebody's like watching you?
Mm-hmm.
There was one time, it was like 5 minutes. I just had my face directly in front of hers, like nose to nose, trying so hard not to laugh that when she woke up, she almost shit herself on the bed. But she didn't, so it was all good. And I found it hysterical.
She probably would have made you clean up the mess.
She probably she was so mad at me. Is that right?
That's
All out of love.
crazy. That is crazy. You just wake up and somebody's just staring you dead in the face.
Directly in the face.
Oh
And she
my
gets
God.
startled very easily. Like, very easily.
So probably haunted houses are probably a no-no around her.
Oh, big no. You could sneeze a little too loud and she, like, screams as if somebody just got murdered right in front of her. Like, it's wild.
Oh man, I'll get jumpy like sometimes, but not. I mean, it depends on the situation. Like, I was going to my mother's house today to say hello, and I was sitting in my car waiting for them to get home because my dad was picking her up from work, and I was just sitting there in the car, face buried in the phone. You know how it goes, that phone life, Instagram life, and
Yep.
she comes like banging on the door, and I just like jumped up, like, what? What's going on? Oh my God.
I love scaring people. I hate being scared. It's very hard to scare me. Like, you really have to, like, catch me. But I have a personal Instagram, and there's literally a highlight reel of me scaring my wife nonstop. And she can't stand it. I think it's the best thing ever. But the minute she scares me, I kind of want to punch her directly in the throat.
Look, I know it's hard. Like with Instagram, we try to keep it like very niche based. And it's like, like you have a fitness account, but you got to bring one of those if you haven't already, because I know I'm just new to your page. And by January, we're practically best friends. But look, you got to bring one of these like scare videos to your Instagram fitness page. And just, this is the one thing I will say about Instagram. We can talk a little about Instagram. We're going to talk all about you and everything. We're going to cover it all tonight as much as we can in the next hour. But, one of the things that drives me nuts is that I feel like there are not enough people that show like what's really going on. Like, it's always, here's my food, here's my workout, here's my motivational quote. Like, where the fuck is your life? Like, show me some of your life. Like, I'm not saying like, throw all your dog and kid pictures all over the place. I mean, that's fine too, if that's what your life is all about. But like, I feel like not enough people show their real lives and some of this kind of like, off the wall stuff. And so I think that'd be really cool if you just throw one of those videos just randomly, like in your story or something.
I agree. See, I have 4 cats and they are my children.
Yeah.
So every once in a while I'll post them and be like, look at my child, cuter than yours. And, just got to throw that out there. But I definitely should do that. I could even make more because, again, she gets startled very easily.
Yeah.
So it'll work out.
It would be great content.
People would definitely enjoy it.
Speaking of which, I know it's in the description of the show, but a lot of people that sometimes they don't read the full description. Go ahead and throw out your handle right now. We'll get that out of the way. We'll plug it again at the end too.
Okay, it is McKenna Fitness. It's MCKENNA__fitness.
Fantastic. Stop what you're doing right now. I mean, listen to the podcast. Don't stop the podcast. But, swipe up on, if you're team iPhone, the smart people, swipe up to the home, go to Instagram. You're probably already following her, but just follow her right now. Just do it right now. And then you can follow along with what we're doing right now. So that's perfect. Yeah. So, okay. So you don't do morning. So let me guess, you go to work and then you do your workouts in the afternoon or the evening at some time?
Yes. So I work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
By the time I get to the gym, it's probably around 6-ish, unless I'm waiting for my wife, then like 6:30.
Right.
And we're there for about an hour and a half, depending on what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
And then I come home and I eat. And I usually do nothing after that.
And how late do you stay up? Are you getting enough sleep at night?
I don't always get enough sleep at night. The past like week and a half, I really haven't been.
Yeah.
I'm actually like, I'm in bed by like 9:30 latest. Like, I'm already in bed.
Yeah.
But, I watch TV. I'm on my phone, the
Of
whole
course.
9. So, it usually takes a little bit for me to fall asleep. But as far as like being in bed, like both Steph is my wife. Stephanie and I are like grandmas. Like we're in bed by like 9:30. Like, do not ask me to do anything. If you want me to do something, you got to give me like a week and a half in advance so I can prepare myself.
Like this
Because,
podcast.
Yes, exactly. I was like, when can I do it where
Yes.
I'm far enough in advance that I can,
Well, I got news for you. Like 15 minutes after this thing is done or whatever it goes to, my ass is in bed because I have a 2:45 wake up call here. So,
see. There'll be days I'm like up till 2:45 and I'm like, what am I doing? I need to get up in like 4 hours. I don't know. I couldn't imagine waking up that early.
Oh my God. You should just, you should do it one, or maybe your wife's listening. Hey, maybe set her alarm a little early one day and let's just see what happens. That would be the funniest shit ever. Then she could throw it on. She has Instagram too, right? So she could make a video. Like if you're going to drop the scary video, she can drop the video where she wakes you up at like 2:45 or 3:00 in the morning. I think this would be fantastic.
God bless. I don't know if she should do that. I don't know.
You're going to come out just slapping people like, hey, get out of, let me sleep. God damn it.
When I get scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I get scared, I kind of like throw punches. So it's involuntary.
Yeah. Oh,
I punch a lot of things. If I think something's cute too, people like come at me about this. When I think something's cute, I want to punch it like directly in its head. Like I can't help it.
Were you raised on Rocky or something? What's going on here?
No, I had my mom, she's a little Puerto Rican woman. She was, she hits you a little bit. So for me, I got that, I got that little gene where I just kind of want to punch things or like hit them. Or when she laughs, she would hit you so freaking hard. So now like when I laugh, I hit myself. I don't hit anybody else. So like I slap my thigh real hard. And after I'm like, ow. But
wow,
I can't help it.
So what you're saying is like, if you were to meet people from Instagram, like just say, we're at some meetup or something, you're like, yo, what's up, Gary? And it's just like punch right to the arm. Like, is that
right?
Holy shit. You sound like my wife. She likes to hit.
A little violent. I can't help it. I try to contain it. Like, if an animal's cute, I'm not going to punch the animal, but I want to,
Come here, Fido. Boom.
Boom. Directly in the, see, yeah, pretty much.
You must have watched Rocky training videos when you grew up or something.
Oh, I had older siblings for that, man. Oh, man.
What, did they beat you up? Is that what was
that the deal?
Oh,
they beat the shit out of me. So can I curse on this? I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah. That's
okay.
We're way past that now.
Sorry. I try so hard not to, and then I forget, like, that's me.
You know what? I will say just really quick. I started putting the explicit tag on this podcast around November because I was like, sometimes people would come on and they'd say, and I've always had an open policy. You say whatever you want. If the mood strikes, say whatever you want, or is that just how you are? Say it. And then you'd have some that were like clean. And then finally I was just like, fuck it. We're just going to put the explicit tag on every episode and it's fine. And then I don't have to worry about watching my mouth. Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, exactly.
So when you were growing up, you were getting the shit beat out of you. What happened?
Yes. Okay. So on my mom's side, I'm the youngest of 4. My oldest sister, she doesn't fight anybody. She's very like, she looks scary, but she won't beat you up.
She looks scary.
Yeah. She had that look where it was like, yeah, she's really okay. So I have my mom and so on my mom's side, it's my oldest sister.
Yeah.
My second oldest sister and brother, and then me. Okay. So my oldest sister has her dad. The 2 middle siblings have theirs, and I have mine.
Right.
So my oldest sister, she's like super, super pale. And just, at the time she was wearing like the really dark black eyeliner and just like black clothes everywhere with a hood up. And her hair was like, she dyed it jet black. And she was going to Sheepshead High School. I don't know if anybody in Brooklyn, but Sheepshead High School was in like projects because we grew up in not great areas. And she just looked scary, but she wouldn't do anything.
Right.
My other siblings, the 2 middle ones, they was like terrifying. They would like, you wouldn't even look like they beat you up and then they beat you up and it was scary.
Oh my God.
And my brother, yeah. So I was told I had to learn how to fight. We grew up in not great areas. So like, gotta protect yourself. And my brother used to hold me down where like the crease of your arm is, like where your little elbow is. I don't know muscle. Yeah. But he'd hold me down there. And my second oldest sister, her name is Sonia, used to wail on. I mean, like punch me so hard, like I was like yelling. And they were like, "No, you got to get out of this. Fight me back." So like that's how I learned how to fight, was being held down and getting my ass kicked until I was able to break out of it and then beat my sister up.
Holy shit!
So
my God, I never had siblings, so I can't relate on this. I'm very fascinated though.
it was wild. And on my dad's side, I have a stepsister who is 2 months older than me.
Yeah.
Different moms. And then different dads as well. My dad adopted her. And then my little brother, who is my dad and stepmom kid. But he is 13 now. So now I can't even wail on him because he's taller than me. But it's okay.
And so you mentioned not growing up in the best area, New York, right? Brooklyn, is that what you said? Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was born
Oh
and raised in
yeah.
Brooklyn.
Wow, Brooklyn. Yeah, that's some tough upbringing there. I've only just walked around the streets of Brooklyn, and I thought I was staying in the good parts, like near Barclays or something. But
oh yeah, no. So my dad, stepmom, and my stepsister and I, until like my sister, when we were 6, we lived in Brooklyn.
Okay.
The area wasn't too bad where my dad was, but then when we turned 6, my dad and us, like we migrated out to Long Island. However, I still lived with my mom. So I only saw my dad on weekends, holidays, and vacations. So I was born and raised in Brooklyn. Like, and my mom was a single mom of 4 kids, as many jobs as she needed to pay rent. I moved 32 times by the time I was 10.
Wow.
Because we just didn't have any money. I grew up in a lot of the projects of Brooklyn. Just not great areas. But it is what it is. That was just life back then. You know what I mean?
Sure. And you mentioned like, your siblings beating up on you. Did you ever have to put those fighting skills to the test? Did somebody ever try to like jump you, or what's up with that?
Yeah, I've actually been mugged a few times.
Wow.
I haven't been fully arrested. I've been in bookings.
Okay. All right.
For fighting. When I was younger, I just had to be tough, and a lot of the times growing up in the projects, I'm Puerto Rican and Irish, but I'm real pasty. Okay, like I'm real white.
Yeah.
So like being like my family, we were kind of like the only white people like where we were. It was hard, you know what I mean? And we just you just have to be tough, and that it was what it was. And then when I turned 14, my dad and I stopped talking. It's a whole big thing. So like it was the summer of 6th grade, I wound up moving out to my dad's house.
Yeah.
Because my little brother was born and I wanted to be in his life, and I wasn't a fan of my stepfather at the time, and my mom stopped speaking to me for 2 years. By the time it was February of 9th grade, I wound up moving back in with my mom.
Yeah.
And by that March, it was a week before my little brother's 4th birthday. I was 14. My dad called me up on a 1-minute restricted phone call, told me, "Have a nice life. Goodbye. I don't want you scraps." That was that. And my dad was out of my life for 5 years. By the time I hit 16, yeah, we're going to get into my life right now.
Oh, no, definitely.
So by the time I hit 16, there was a really big rough patch between my mom and my siblings, which caused a rough patch between me and my siblings, to the point where my siblings will walk past me in the street, not even saying hello to me. So like I only had my mom, and that was really rocky. I had a very bad relationship with my mom growing up, and I just felt like the world was against me. So the only thing that I was doing was fighting. If somebody even like remotely like sneezed in my direction wrong, that's what I was doing. I felt like I had to be tough because like that's all I had. You know what I mean? I only had my 2 fists and a heartbeat. So I'm going to make my way through this world the way that I have to. And
right. So
unfortunately,
yeah, no, I was just going to say you needed like an outlet for your anger, and that outlet was beating the shit out of people if the opportunity arose.
Pretty much. And I'm a very protective person as well, and when it came to like my friends became my family. So like if people even spoke to them wrong, like that was it. Like for me, like when I turned to like drinking, by the time I was 15, I was smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Like
wow.
Smoking like weed, like drinking, I was very troubled. Like I was troubled as a kid. I never did anything harder than weed though. Like that was, thank God, I never like went down a worse route than that. To the point where once I turned 17, like I was like, fuck this, I'm done with everything. Like I don't even care about all that. I've been working full time since I'm 14. I got my working papers at 13, started as a dance teacher, an assistant dance teacher. By the time I was 14, I was working full time, going to school full time. I've pretty much raised myself, if you want to put it in that perspective.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because I will say when it comes to the father thing, I can relate. I mean, I'm sure it's different situations, obviously, but I don't have a relationship with my father to this day. And, you talk about not having the best relationship with both of your parents. What do you think? I guess we can start with the father, whatever you want to share, it's fine if you don't want to share, but what can you say about the relationship with your father that you think went south? Like what do you think caused that?
Well, I'll put in like disclosure right now. My dad and I do speak again.
Okay. Okay, great.
We have been speaking again for a couple of years. I got kicked out of my mom's house right before I turned 20.
Right.
And I had just really started talking to my dad again. I wasn't even speaking to my sister, my little brother, and my stepmom at the time. And I had nowhere to go. My mom literally called me up at my job and was like, you got to get the fuck out of my house. And,
Wow.
because I was gay, when I fully came out as gay, and she, it wasn't fully reciprocated, even though I came out when I was 14.
So that was probably one of the things, if not the thing that probably got this kind of stuff in motion, started setting it in motion. Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I literally called up my dad. She told me she called my dad and that he was okay with it. When I called my dad, he had no idea. But he left his job. He works in the Bronx. He left and he was like, I'm coming to pick you up right now. I don't give a shit what anybody in my house has to say. You're coming home. So I was like, okay. That's how I came back to live on Long Island. But, at the time when I wound up moving back to my mom's, I did it the wrong way. I did it the wrong way both ways. Telling my mom I wanted to move in with my father, I did it wrong.
Yeah.
And then telling my father that I wanted to move in with my mom again was wrong. My mom actually called him. And, it's a pride thing. It hurts,
Sure.
And with my mom, not to say that I loved my mom more, because my dad and I spoke about this, but my mom, I never had a good relationship with her. And I needed my mom to love me, to care about me. Like, why doesn't she? And
of course.
I needed that. And my dad would always be like, your mother can give you a chewed up pencil and I can give you a brand new Maserati. And you would love her more. Like, why is that? I'm like, well, I have you, I don't have my mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I decided that I wanted to move back in with my mom, because when I was living with my father, by the time I hit 8th grade, I that was my biggest depression spout. So I deal with manic depression, and I became suicidal, and I tried to kill myself. And I was in severe, I was on suicide watch, severe suicide watch, for over 6.5 months, until I kind of got in a little bit more of a better mind space, headspace. And I thought it was because I was living there. I didn't know it was just because my whole life was shit, and it just kind of caught up to me now. It was just in my head. I was young. I was 14, and I was like, it's where I'm living, and I miss my mom, and maybe she'll talk to me again if I move back over there. And it was just a whole thing for me, not understanding as a kid. But
well, to that point, you said you come out at 14. That's got to be a big, thing in your mind. It's like, okay, I have to come out. I have to say something. And how long had you known prior to when you spoke up and came out?
That I was gay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my whole life.
Your whole life? It's funny. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I had my first crush in kindergarten, this girl Raquel.
Okay. All right. I see you.
I've known, I've always known. And my dad, it's funny because when I was sick, my stepsister and I, when we were 6, my dad actually sat us down and he looked at us and he goes, I just want you girls to know that if you like girls, I'm okay with it.
Right.
And, I was like, ew, that's gross. And he was like, I'm just letting you know, if it ever happens, just know I'm always going to be here.
So you've never looked at a man and had any interest whatsoever other than oh, okay, yeah, he's whatever. You've never had any feeling whatsoever in that direction.
Don't get me wrong. I could appreciate a good looking man.
Of course. Yeah. So can I. Yeah.
Yeah. And and people come at me sideways, how are you gay? But you're I'm obsessed with MGK. I love that man. Oh my God. But everything attached to it, please keep it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I've never been in love with a man. I always could never look at a man and be like, okay, I want to marry you and I want a life with you. I was never able to do that.
Right.
And, while I was growing up and I was younger, from the ages of I want to say 15 to 17, I dressed like a guy and everything. I was very, very boyish.
Right.
Because I was trying to have boyfriends, but dress like a boy so I could try to look have girls look at me and be like, oh, she's gay. You know what I mean? So from 15 to 17, that was kind of what was going on heavily in my life. I was just trying to have a boyfriend so my mom wouldn't look down on me because so my sister, my second sister, she like fell in love with her best friend, and they were together for 2 years until my mom found out, and my mom like lost her shit. Like
Wow.
she was not about it. She was like, I remember listening to it and watching what was happening and being terrified because I remembered feeling how I was feeling and being like, oh, like Sonia's that way. Like, it's not that weird. And then seeing what my mom was saying and doing, I was like, oh my God, like I can't come out. And then I wound up dating one of my best friends when I was 14. And I was like, madly in love and oh my God. And my mom was driving me to her house one day, and I was like, Mom, I got to tell you something. She was like, I already know. Like, she claimed that I kissed her goodbye one day, and I was like, that's a fucking lie, but whatever. I
Yeah.
was like, I would never do that. Like, my mom scares the shit out. My mom's 4'11", okay, tiniest little Puerto Rican woman you've ever seen, and
Yeah.
she scares the shit out of me. Like, nobody scares me like my mom. So I was like, there was no way I did that, but okay. She was like, it's only this one person. People just have that one person, and it's never gonna happen again. So after me and that girl broke up, I wound up talking to this other girl, and I said, Mom, I want you to meet this girl. And she, I mean, like, reamed me a new asshole. And at that time, I wasn't speaking to my dad. Like nothing was really going right for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I okay, like I can't be gay. I'm like, fine. So I was just telling people I was bi. So that way, girls would still want to be with me, but boys would still be like, oh, like you're bi, cool.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, like I was very, I was very thin. I had the attitude, like confidence to match. And so like people were attracted to me for all of those reasons. So I had like boyfriend after boyfriend while still on the side having girlfriend after girlfriend.
Sure. Yeah.
Up until, so I reached 16 and I met this girl and I was like, oh, damn. I was trying my best to avoid her at all costs because like I didn't want to feel like how I was feeling because I
Yeah.
never like fell in love before. And we like hooked up a little bit here and there, and then I kind of just like dead her because like I can't do it. I can't do this anymore. By the time I had 18, I met this guy that used to come in. I worked at Key Food, and he used to come in all the time. He was like straight off the boat from Ireland, and I was like, oh, great. I was like, I love his accent. I was
Yeah.
like, he's a handsome man. And I told him, like, I'm also the type of person that man, woman, I don't give a shit. I'll be like, you are beautiful. Or like, you're handsome. Like, I just tell people because I feel like, why not? Like, make somebody's day.
Yeah.
So I told him and he asked me on a date and we went on a date. I found out he was 26, I believe. I was 18. He was like 26. He was in recovery, whole nine. And my mom like fell in love with him.
Oh no.
Like she loved him. And I was like, fuck. So I was like, all right, well, I guess my life is set for me now. I wound up moving in, and within 3 months, we both knew that the relationship wasn't for us.
Yeah.
And it got very rocky, very, very fast. He's my friend to this day. I want to point that out.
Well, that's great.
We were friends more than anything, but the relationship, it was very toxic because we both were in not good places mentally to even like regardless, like even if I was straight, we both weren't mentally in a good headspace to be what we were.
Yeah.
But while I was dating him, I wound up meeting that girl again, the one that I was talking about when I was 16.
Mm.
And I actually asked her to bring me to a tattoo shop. It was all my fault. I literally had no ride from anybody, and I wound up texting her. And I was like, can you bring me to the tattoo shop? Because I want to get piercing and I'll give you like roll and roast a coin. If anybody knows roll and roast, you get coins. Roll and roast. And she would, no hesitation, came to pick me up. And I'll never forget it. We got out of the car and I looked at her and I was just like, fuck. Like I was in love, like at that point. Like
Yeah.
I know it sounds psychotic to people, but I was like, I knew exactly how I felt in that moment. And that night I went home and I packed my bags and I told him I couldn't do it anymore. And it was for quite a while. I want to say like 6 or 8 months where he was like, no, like, please stay with me. And my mom was like, blaming me for things that were going on in his life.
Yeah.
And she wasn't, she started to see that I was hanging out with this girl a lot. And she's like, you think I'm stupid, blah, blah. And it just became really, really bad, really, really fast. I got kicked out a lot, regardless of my mom's house. But I was getting kicked out quite a lot at that point. And then when I fully like came out, my mom was like, not about it, and then tried to be about it, and then switched so fast that it was like I got whiplash. Like
Oh my
It was
God.
1 second to the other, and she just called me up at my job and was like, "I want you out." That's it. Um, so yeah, then I had to move to the island, and
And that's rough too, because all through our lives, all we ever want is our parents to be proud of us, to love us, unconditionally. And I've had these moments on a different scale, obviously, where it's like, you're always hoping for that approval of your parents. It's like my thing with my father is he didn't come to either of my weddings. I got married twice. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. And he wasn't at either one of them. And especially after we talked about how the first one he missed because we were doing stupid shit, not talking to each other, how much he knew it meant to me, for him to have missed it. And then for me to call him and say, "Hey, look, your son's a fuck up. He's actually getting married again though. He got the right one this time." And he's like, "I can't come." And I'm just like, but the point is that we always want that support and love from our parents. And it's really tough when you have a strained relationship with a parent.
yeah, 100%. And I feel that too because like my dad didn't show up to my sweet 16. My
Yeah.
mom told him about it too. I actually found out like a couple years ago that my mom actually like reached out and was like, "Listen, like Kayla's sweet 16 is going to be on this day, blah blah blah." And he said like, "I don't want to go." And I actually wound up dancing with my older brother.
Yeah.
My older brother, my birthday is March 4th and his is March 5th. So like every year we would rotate on when we do a cake.
Yeah.
And for my birthday, I didn't do 16 candles. I did one candle, and I did that for my little brother because his birthday is March 29th. And then I had my two sisters bring out a cake and surprise my brother with that cake. So my dad wasn't there. My high school graduation, which was to this day the biggest accomplishment of my life because I almost failed out of high school because to me work was more important. I had to, support myself.
Yeah.
And I like by the skin of my teeth passed. And I remember like I'll never forget looking out in that crowd and like not seeing my dad there. And like the feel I still get that like pit in my stomach that was like, yo, he's like these big moments in my life like you weren't there. And thankfully he was there at my wedding. My mom was too. I have a good relationship with my mom now.
Oh, that's great.
After things were after I was kicked out or whatever, it took another like 2 years or so to get back into a relationship with her. But we kind of got on that equal path of we're just not going to speak about this. So we don't. And I was thankful that both of them were at my wedding. My mom and I didn't speak for a little bit after my wedding for other reasons, but we're back on track now. So I kind of have an in and out relationship with them altogether. But while I was dancing with my dad at my wedding, I got emotional and I said, I never thought this day would come because,
wow.
He wasn't there, and he regrets it, and he says all the time, he's like, for the longest I was blamed for them not speaking to me. And I was like, first of all, no matter what would have happened, like you're a parent and I'm a kid. Like I was the child. No matter what the fuck happened, like you should have turned around and been like, all right, well, I'm still the parent in the situation. But instead I was being blamed, and for those years being blamed and being told it was my fault. And when I first came out here and everything, like it was hard. It wasn't until my dad, when we first started speaking again, and he turned around and he was like, he got emotional and he said, I'm sorry. He apologized to me and he was like, I shouldn't have blamed that on you. You were a kid, and it was my pride in the way. And, we kind of just squashed it from there. And I don't need an apology. I don't need an apology. I didn't even need it.
Yeah.
For me, actions speak louder than words. So as long as you prove to me now that we're good, I can't change the past.
Yeah.
My life already happened then. Like I already went through what I went through. I was a fuck up when I was a fuck up. I did what I had to do and I moved on from it. In my opinion, I think that I turned out very well for like how I lived my life, how my cards were dealt. I personally feel like God, because now I'm very big in my faith now. I wasn't before,
Yeah.
but God walked me through that. Like if it wasn't for him, I would have been dead the first time I tried. I would have been dead any time that I was on a bench, sleeping on a bench because I had nowhere to go. I would have been so far under that just I don't need anything now. I just need you to prove to me that you give a shit now. And that's where I am in my life at this point where no matter who you are, I don't need any apologies. I don't need anything. Just show me now that like we're good now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can speak outside looking in, as somebody just walking in your door like a week ago. I'm like, this is a woman who's confident, ass kicking, conquering goals, conquering, smashing goals. Like, that's
Thank
an
you.
outside looking in. So hearing kind of your upbringing here, and would you believe we've already gone a half an hour? We're like halfway through this thing.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. and just, so for people to understand like where you came from, and if they're just popping on your page now, like I just did, it's like, holy shit, man, she rose like a fucking phoenix through the flames. And is soaring high. Like, I mean, if you were here right now, it'd be fist bumps all day. So no, I mean, that's an incredible story there, and you're obviously you're in a great place now. When did you get married? How long you been married for?
Ooh, I got married June 30th of 2018. So it's a year and how many months? June, July, August, September, October, November. A year and like 6 months.
Okay, cool. And
almost.
And when
Just about.
When did you meet her? How long had you guys been together and all that good stuff?
We met January 7th of 2016.
Okay. How did you meet?
Okay. So I love telling the story, and she's gonna be like, "You had to tell the whole story." Yes,
let's hear it.
So when I first moved out to Long Island, I wound up my first job. I was a data entry typist because I could type about 80 to 85 words a minute.
Yeah.
And that was just like, I was like, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna do that. And I wound up being in a workspace where it was just like all older women. I was like, I'm not feeling it. So I got a job at a coffee shop. And I was working there for about a year until I found a position in Geico. I left the coffee shop. It was about 6 months. And I wound up going back there for coffee with a friend. And this place was a mess. I mean, line out the door, terrible. To the point where there was 2 owners at the time. One of them, God rest his soul, she passed away. But Billy, the other owner, came in and he looked at me and he goes, Kayla, please get behind this counter. Get this line out. And I was like, I don't even work here. Fine. Like I got behind the counter, I banged the line out, and I said to him, and I called up, her name was Tina. I called her up and I said, if you bring me back as a manager and you pay me more, I will come in, I'll retrain the whole staff, I'll make sure this place is running right. And I got the position again. So that was my second job. So I was still working at Geico, but this was my second job, and I was working at Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thursday nights were open mic nights, and it was my second day back. So it was the first open mic night back, and she walks in.
Okay.
I used to go to this place called Pride for Youth for therapy. And there was a group of guys there that I saw in passing from this place. And I saw her talking to them. So and mind you, also, when she walked in the room, this isn't a big coffee shop. She walked in and she just had this smile. Yeah. And my wife's smile can take up a room. Like her whole energy just like changes a room. And I was like, holy shit. So I saw her talking to them and I went over and I was like, hey, like, do you know her? And they said, no. Like, great, got to do it myself. So I said to the other manager at the time, I said, listen, I'm going to get her number by the end of the night. And he's like, no, you're not. That money, by the end of the night, I'm getting her number. So one of the guys from Pride for Youth, he's like, I want to sing, but I'm too afraid. And I'm never embarrassed. I have no shame. I can't sing for the life of me, but I was like, fuck it, I'll get up there with you. So we get up there and she's looking at me the whole time. And for the first time in my life, I got embarrassed. And I was like, oh my God, I really can't sing. And she's looking at me. But she didn't care. I sang, I did what I had to do. And she wound up putting her name down on the list. And obviously I didn't know at the time, but my wife's a musician. She went to school for music. She like majored, her like main instrument, I guess, is her voice. She does guitar, piano, drums.
Okay. I'm a musician myself, so I can relate to that.
Yeah. She is unbelievable. So she got up there and started playing her guitar and singing, and I was like, holy shit. Like, oh my God. Now I really got to get her number.
Yeah.
So the end of the night comes and she's talking to the guy that I wound up singing with. And I went over to them because I was like, before she leaves, like, I got her. I was like, oh, it was so nice singing with you. And you have a great voice. She's like, oh, thanks so much. I was like, yeah, you're also like extremely beautiful. Yeah. Boom. She was a tomato. And I was like, got it in the bag. So they were exchanging Facebook. She's like, oh, I'll put your Facebook in my phone. So I was like, okay. So I'm like putting my name in. I was like, oh, do you mind if I put my number in here too? And she was just like, oh, sure. Like smooth, like butter. So I put my number in, and I was like, oh, I asked her a few questions, and then I asked her out on a date, and she said yes. And we like we started talking like we through text or whatever, but she's like, I want to get to know you more in person. But then we got so enthralled in each other that we were supposed to meet that upcoming Friday. We wound up meeting that Thursday again. She performed, and then I took her out on the date that next day. And we have not stopped speaking since the day we met. Like, that was it. By the 15th of January that year, like, I was her girlfriend.
So you guys were FBO. You were a Facebook official at some point there.
Oh, yeah. Like, it was quick. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, okay, so I took her on her first date on January 15th, and then I wasn't her girlfriend until, like, I can't even tell you.
What was the first date? Like, hello. What'd you guys do on the first date?
So I picked her up. First, she didn't want me to when we were texting. She's like, oh, I'll just drive there myself. I guess, 'cause, I don't know, she thought I was maybe a killer. I don't know. So I was like, oh, sure, fine.
Yeah.
Until we were, like, talking more, and she was like, okay, you can pick me up. Which, at the time, I took her to the Cheesecake Factory, right? So the Cheesecake Factory, compared to my job, was, I'm not kidding you, right up the block.
Yeah.
So now I had to leave my job, go all the way to where she lived, to drive all the way back. So I was like, damn, she could have just left it where she wanted me to freaking meet her. So I was dressed. At the time, I worked 7 to 4, so I was actually up early in the morning. I was dressed and ready in my full face of makeup, date outfit, at like 6 o'clock in the morning. After work, I went to pick up flowers. I came to her house. I, met her at the door, gave her flowers, did the whole, I opened the door. I was such a gentleman.
You were going in hard. You were all
I was going
fucking
in hard.
in.
That was it. I was like, here's your flowers. You're beautiful. I'm going to open the door and pay for dinner. So we were like driving there, getting to know each other a little bit more. And the thing that like blew my mind, we were on this date for like about 8 hours or so, just about 8 hours.
Yeah.
She did not once look at her phone. It was away the entire time. She didn't care about text messages she was getting, what time it was. She was so into getting to know me that I was like, holy shit. Like, this has never happened to me before in my life. Like, the person that I was talking about before, it was a very emotionally and mentally abusive relationship. Like, it was horrendous.
Right.
So to go from that to this girl just like wanting to know me, I was like, what the hell is that? Like, I was so thrown off balance. Like,
is something wrong here? What's going on?
Yeah. I was like, what is wrong with her? Honestly, something must be wrong with her.
Maybe her phone battery died,
Maybe, you might be right. Maybe I just overthought it and her phone was just dead and she's just playing it off as, no, I really wanted to get to know you.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But yeah, so after that, it just, that was it. Like, I was totally in it, and so was she.
You were like a freight train just picking up steam.
Oh, that was it. I was like, fuck it. That's it. This is mine. Like, I don't care what anybody says. This is mine. And, at the time when I met her, I was around 240 or 245 pounds, and she was very fit. That's another thing. Her whole family is, like, fit. I mean, like, personal trainer. Her sister was a personal trainer. Like, her mom is super fit. And, like, I say it all the time. Like, I said to my sister after, like, meeting Steph for the first time, I was like, her family's fit, fam, and like, I'm not fit, fam. Like, I'm fat, fam. Okay, like, I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work out, but.
And was this your highest?
No, my highest I got to like right after our honeymoon. She met me at that point in my life. I was my highest weight.
Okay.
But she didn't even like. It wasn't even a concern like to her. Like, she didn't look at me and go, oh, she's too overweight. I'm not even gonna go on the date with her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was our first date, and then I moved in with her right before our 1-year anniversary.
Okay.
And we got married. Well, Jesus, we got engaged right before our 1 year. So I moved in.
Yeah.
Like, it was the last day of December, going into the new year. So I went into the new year, into 2017, still moving getting all my stuff like out and just like fully moving in with her. And shortly after that, we got engaged. And then we were engaged from that point until, obviously, the wedding, which was June 30th. So we were engaged for a year and a half.
And do you have a good proposal story? How did that go?
So, okay. I don't want to step on any toes. Okay, so I didn't have the best relationship in the beginning with Steph's family. We were kind of rocky.
Okay.
And I know that she was supposed to propose to me in a different type of way.
Right.
The day she proposed to me, she wasn't going to.
Okay.
And I had gotten into a huge argument with her sister, like right before. It was like we were in an argument stage for something that I can't even fucking remember at this point. But Steph's like, let's just go to dinner with her and her boyfriend at the time. She's like, let's just go. And I was like, I really don't want to, but fine.
Yeah.
So we were all like, oh yeah, that's great, dinner. And Steph just turned around to her sister and was just like, I'm proposing.
Wow.
And that was that. Yeah. And Steph said to me, because I said to her, I was like, if it's gonna be a problem with you and your family, like I don't want to break up you and your family. They were very close. And I was like, I don't want to be that person because I don't have a good relationship with my family, and you have a very good relationship. And she proposed to me, and when we got home that night, she said to me, it was in the Vine Wine Bar. It was so cute. There was a band playing. She didn't even know there was going to be a band playing. Like,
wow.
It was actually pretty romantic. But, she said to me, she was like, you are my life. And no matter what happens, you will be my forever. And, that's exactly why I proposed to you tonight. Like, I wasn't going to. It was going to be, we were supposed to go to the city, actually on January 28th. We were supposed to go to the city under this big like igloo thing and look at the stars, whatever. It's supposed to be like super like gay.
Right.
And it turned out happening how it did. And her family and me now are very close. Our sister, I consider one of my best friends. I'm super close with her mom. It was just rocky in the beginning, and it is what it is. Things like that happen. But yeah, she just turned around. She was just like, "You're my forever." Like, and I don't care. Like what anybody has to say.
That's a fucking vibe right there. Wow.
Yeah. For real. I was like, you fucking right on your forever.
Is she a songwriter too? Because I would imagine that's probably where some of that would come from.
Yeah, she is.
A way with words, yeah.
Oh, such a way with words. I was like, oh my God, like, yes. I'm blessed, you're blessed, that's it.
Then y'all just lucked out with each other then.
Honestly, yes. Like, and people shit on me all the time. They're like, you got married so young, and why didn't you wait? And blah, blah. Like, what am I waiting for? Seriously, what am I waiting for? I found my best friend. Like, I fell in love with my best friend. What are you telling me that I have to wait for? For what? For you to be comfortable about me marrying her? For you to feel comfortable that, I got married in 27 instead of 23? Fuck that. No, like, I've always lived my life how I wanted to. And, like, I'm not going to stop now just because some people are uncomfortable that I got married young. Like, I don't give a shit.
Amen to that. Whew, drop the mic.
Oh.
So when when does all the weight stuff come into play? Like really come into play when you're like, man, shit, I really got to get this taken care of. Like when is that? Like, I mean, you probably had it in the background of your mind, but like, when do you get to your highest, and when are you just like, we got to do something about this?
Okay, so like I said, when I met her, I was like 240, 245. And you get a little happy weight, and so did she. She was actually very thin when we first met because, again, her family was like very fit, whatever.
I can relate.
And when her family started to see she was putting on weight, they started like talking to her like, Steph, like, hello, what are you doing? You're putting on weight, just that and the other thing. And then I, the defensive person I am, started getting mad about it. I was like, fuck that. I'm fat. You met me fat. If you want to get fat, we'll get fat together.
Yeah, let's do it.
I was like wild about it. You know what I mean? And like, at the end of the day, like, I can't be blamed for the weight that she did put on. She put the fork to her mouth. And same thing with me. Like when I started gaining my weight from my previous relationship, I was blaming her and blaming like my ex. And I was like, no, like just because she took me out to a restaurant all the time or, gave me all this, I didn't have to eat it. I didn't have to make the choices I was making. That was on me, and same thing with Steph, but.
So it was more the eating. It was more the eating as opposed to like less activity or a combination of the both somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was all the eating. And, going to the diner at fucking 11:30 at night and getting a full order of mozzarella sticks with a full dinner and wings and burgers and fries and dessert. And, what can we eat now? And we would just stuff in our face.
And they know how to cook up there in New York. I can verify. You're still in New York, right?
Man. Yeah, I'm on Long Island now.
Okay, yeah, you guys can cook up there. I can speak to that.
It. Wild. The food is so good. Like, it's terrible it's that good.
Yeah.
But we, every so often, it would be like, all right, I'm going to try to lose weight. And then I'd fall off because I went too hard into it and never, like, stuck to it because I was like, I'm full in or I'm not in at all.
Yeah.
Which was my mistake, and I've learned that obviously. But I went on and off a weight loss journey for like, oh man, I don't even know the amount of times at this point that it's happened. But it got to a point where like when Steph started to get, close to like 200 pounds, and we were talking, she would like cry to me about how like me, like, why don't you want to stick to the gym and it'll help me. And in my head, being defensive, I was like, you just want somebody skinny. You just want to be with somebody skinny. And she's like, no, like I want you healthy. Like I want a wife and I want a mom to my kids. Like, why don't you want to be healthy? And it wasn't like that for me. I was just like, you just want somebody skinny. And I was like trying to push her away. And obviously she didn't allow that to happen. But, it was to a point where it got really hard because like I was just failing over and over and over and over again. We got on track together and I lost about like 30 pounds. So I got up to about, not like 20, 25 pounds. I got up to about like 250 something. And I got down to like 230-ish, 235 before my wedding.
Right.
And about 6 to 7 months before the wedding, I started working at this job in Brooklyn where I fell off hard. I mean, like I was a closet eater to begin with, but I mean, like I was closet. I would, on my way to work, I'd stop down the block and pick up a bagel with cream cheese. I'd eat it on the way to work. I'd get to Dunkin' Donuts, like 4 minutes away from my job. I'd order 2 orders of hash browns and another bagel, pick up all the coffee, which was loaded with heavy half and half and whipped cream and flavoring. Yep. I'd eat all of that food right before the 5 minutes it took me to get to my job. We'd get to my job and then we'd order breakfast again. So I'd probably order another bagel or home fries or whatever they were ordering at the time.
Yeah.
Then for lunch, I was constantly ordering out. We'd get from the deli, so I'd get like a Philly cheesesteak with fries.
Oh man!
Or we'd order this pizza place this pizza place had a family. It's a family special, so it was a full pie, garlic knots, an order of mozzarella sticks, and a 2-liter bottle of soda for $20. So we would order that, and I was just eating, and before I knew it, boom! My wedding came, and I was 260 pounds, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like I thought I wasn't even gonna fit in my dress.
Right.
Like it was that bad. And then by the time we got on our honeymoon, that's when I gained my last 9 pounds because we were just obviously like scoffing down food there too.
Sure.
And I topped off at 269 pounds.
So what's the wake up call? Like you just wake up one day like, fuck, I got to do something, or like what's the moment?
Well, I was sick all the time. And I mean like pretty much my whole life, I was always sick, like never feeling good. And it started to get progressively worse. And I went to the doctor and I found out I was pre-diabetic. And I was like, I'm 23 years old and I'm pre-diabetic? Is this a joke? Like, I do have to do something. And that was pretty much my wake-up call. And I know that health scares don't really, like, jump people into gear, but that jumped me right into gear. I was like, I cannot, like, have Steph live her life without me because I decided to be selfish and put food above myself and her.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much my wake-up call.
And so from there, I feel like a lot of people when they decide, okay, I'm going to do something, there's a lot of confusion because there's so many different, quote unquote diet plans or workout programs. Like what was your approach? Some people say, oh, I'm just going to go outside and start walking. There's a start. I'm going to cut back on portions. That was something that worked for me personally. What was the path that you determined you wanted to go down as far as like workouts and eating and what was that adjustment like?
So working out was just not in the books for me. Like I did it every so often and I would try my best to either just go outside or like just go work out on the treadmill for 30 minutes. But I started with keto actually. Both Stephanie and I started with keto.
Okay.
And I actually never got over that keto flu stage. I was sick. I was even like, I was worse than beforehand. But for me, I have a crippling phobia of vomit. So for me, feeling that ill and still going, I knew at that point that I was sticking to this because I wasn't stopping, even though I felt like I was going to throw up 24/7. We did keto for about 2 months and I never got over it. I was getting sicker and sicker by the day. So we gave that up. And we slowly added like carbs back in and starches and stuff like that. And once February hit, so I started in September. September 3rd was my very first day, like changing how I ate and everything.
2018?
2018.
Okay, cool.
And once I started February. Once February came along, it was ever so often where, where you would put a pill to swallow?
Yes.
Food would get stuck there. And I would almost throw up. Like, I couldn't swallow. And it would happen every so often. And then February hit and boom, I couldn't even get watered down. I was only able to have applesauce that I would have to like swish through my teeth so much that it would just slowly trickle down my throat. Like, it was terrifying. I thought I had esophageal cancer. Like, me and Steph were crying on the bed thinking like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm gonna like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And I wound up getting I was getting blood work, whole nine, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I got a endoscopy done. They took biopsies of the back of my throat, my esophagus, and my stomach lining. More blood work. I found out I was severely lactose intolerant.
Wow.
I found out I had celiac disease. I got a severe hiatal hernia from doing keto. 3/4 of my diaphragm slipped into my stomach. I had terrible acid reflux to the point where I wasn't able to swallow because my throat was closing. My esophagus was closing.
Yeah.
From all of the acid with all the dairy and everything that I shouldn't have been eating. I was getting reflux, not fully understanding. So I would get it and my esophagus would burn and then scab up, and burn and scab up, and burn and scab up. So it started to slowly close it. So keto literally was killing me. Like it literally almost killed me. And after that, my doctor was like, you can't eat A, B, C, D, obviously. He said, if you want to eat red meat, you have to do it extremely scarce. He's like, maybe once a month, if that, because you're not going to be able to break it down. The acids in your stomach, you can't do anything. He's like, don't eat the yolks of the eggs. You won't be able to break down like cholesterol right now. It's not good for you. He's like, you have to eat pretty much like veggies. He's like, you can eat chicken, turkey, and egg whites, stick to clean meats, and that's it, So at that point, I gave up all dairy. I didn't even touch red meat because I'm a food addict. To me, putting a steak in front of me was like putting a beer in front of an alcoholic and saying, take a sip and spill the rest out. I was like, I can't do that. I'm not doing it to myself.
Right.
So it's been since February, so what's that, like 11 months now that I have not had, just about 11 months. I have not had any dairy, any red meat, any gluten.
Wow.
And it's been a month and a half since I've eaten egg whites at all. And today is 21 days fully plant-based vegan that I am now.
That's phenomenal. And I mean, as you're making these changes, obviously, you've got these health stuff in play and the doctor's like, you need to do this, but like mentally, I can imagine that it's got to be fucking you up a little bit, right? I mean, because the transition, it's not just like you snap your fingers like, okay, I'm just not doing this anymore. Like it's got to mess with your head a little bit, right?
In the beginning, it did. It was hard too because like you couldn't get me to touch a vegetable to save my life. Like if it was me, like dying or like eat a piece of broccoli, I was dying. Like fuck that.
Yeah.
Now I'm obsessed with vegetables, like obsessed.
No
broccoli
kidding.
in particular. But it was hard in the beginning. But once my doctor was like, you cannot eat this, I'm actually very good when it comes to willpower. He said I can't eat it. I was like, fuck it, I'm not eating it. Take it out completely. I don't even want it. My wife doesn't eat that way though. There's still, dairy in my house and meat in my house, and I don't even blink twice. I don't even it doesn't even affect me. In the beginning, a little bit because steak was big for me. I loved steak.
Right.
And like mozzarella sticks. Oh damn. But like it got to a point where I could cook it for her and be fine. It was harder for me to give up chicken and turkey than it was for anything.
Yeah.
But slowly but surely, like I just started to be like, I started to think about what I was eating. Like I was like, oh, like I'm eating like a dead animal. And like for me, I'm also a huge animal lover. And I'm not saying you can't love animals and eat them too. I get how the world works. Like I don't really,
yeah.
That's why I try not to classify myself as a vegan because for them, it's more of like a movement than anything.
Oh my God.
For me, it started like health reasons, and just because I do love animals and I don't, I can agree with a lot of the reasons about being a vegan. It doesn't mean that I'm going to turn around and tell my wife, we have to get a divorce if you don't turn vegan. You can't eat meat in front of me. Like I would never do that. I understand how the world works. For me, it's just not for me anymore. You know what I mean? And that's it. But I love the food that I make. I am so passionate about what I eat and getting people to even slowly, not completely go like plant-based, but like just try things. I was like, you're just saying it's gross because you think just because you hear vegan, it's nasty. Like I'm telling you, half the things that I would give to people, they wouldn't even know was gluten-free or vegan if I didn't tell them. For me, it's just like, just try it, like you'll like it if you just try it. I have Friendsmas every year. and I made a whole cheese board, which I was so excited about. And it was completely gluten-free and vegan. And then I told Steph, get a regular one because, none of my friends are gluten-free or vegan. Well, one's gluten-free. But my cheese board went. Hers didn't. I was like, this is the thing that I want people to understand, that like, I'm not telling you to go vegan. I'm just saying, like, try it,
Sure.
try a food. You might like it. So that way, when we do go out, I don't always have to go get like lettuce leaves. So we can go to a vegan restaurant. You'd be like, yeah, fuck it. I'll just get this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I can tell you, like, for me personally with food, like, I'm not necessarily closed-minded when it comes to a lot of food, but if the texture or the smell is really strong, like any sort of like Asian or Indian food, like I cannot do any of that stuff.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, that's me with Beyond Meat. Yeah, Beyond Meat.
Right.
Burgers, their sausages are the best thing I've ever had in my life. But the actual like burgers, I remember opening. Oh, God bless. I opened it up. I love to grill in the summer. Like I'm out there 24/7. I opened this thing up, and it smelled like my cat's wet food, and I was like, oh shit. And like when you smell something, and you're like, that's how it's gonna taste. That's exactly how it tasted, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sad about this because like people hype it up. I'm like, no, this is ass. Like, I don't know what you mean. This is the worst thing I've ever had in my life.
What about the Impossible Burger though?
Oh my God, that's delicious.
Yeah,
I was actually like, I was fucked up when I first had it because like the inside like looked a little pink, and I was like, excuse me, I didn't order a regular burger, and they're like, no, that's the Impossible one. And then I took a bite, and I was like, no, seriously, stop playing with me. Like I literally thought it was a real burger for like a hot second, And it's funny too. My oldest sister, she'll eat whatever. Her best friend is a vegetarian, and like me becoming plant-based, she'll eat whatever I have. Like, she's like, fuck it, I'll try it. And she's like, I would, try things that you suggest more than I would somebody who's never had like meat or dairy in their life, because you are trying to find something that tasted like how foods used to taste.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, you're right. Like I am.
Daryl and I actually did a video. It's on my IGTV where we tried out White Castle. They have their famous sliders. They had an Impossible slider. Yeah. And so in Cincinnati, they have a White Castle there. We were there for Flying Pig weekend. And I said, yo, Daryl, you want to do a video with me? And so we did a video where we tried it. And like, I could not tell the difference. Now, don't get me wrong. I still like my meat. I don't necessarily go out of my way for like the Impossible Burger, but if it's an option, I'll take it.
Dude,
I think
it's so good.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, I talk about the smells and the textures that kind of fuck me up, but it's like, if you find stuff that I like and then you give me like your version of it, that's like the gluten-free or vegan, like, whether it be the Impossible Burger or just, any other example, but like stuff I like, spaghetti or whatever. Like if there's like a healthier version, I'm down. Like I'm so down to like try those kind of things.
Yeah, and it's funny too because vegans get so mad. A lot of them get mad about the Impossible Burger or about plant-based meat products.
Yeah,
because they're like, the whole point is to not like whatever about an animal. Honestly, I can't even tell you. But the point of these companies is to get meat eaters to just switch out maybe one meal for a plant-based option.
Sure,
it's just to get people who love these things to just take one thing out of it. Like just. Instead of getting for 6 days a week, get it 5 in the Impossible one day, or 4 in the Impossible 2 days, things like that. That's the whole point of these brands, is to just open people's eyes to plant-based foods aren't as bad as people think they are. Like that's just the point of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've seen, I follow plenty of people on Instagram that have these dishes that look, they're plant-based. They look amazing.
They're so good. Oh my God. I can't wait to cook. I'm cooking after this. I'm so excited about my dinner.
All right. Well, I'll let you get to that in a moment. Just have one or two more things and I'll let you out of here. You've been so great with your time. I really appreciate it. Let's talk about the gram real quick, how you got, into the community. It's one of the things I like to ask everybody, how did you find out about the quote unquote weight loss community? How do you get yourself involved in that?
I actually found this girl. I think her name's like Liz Fitness or Liz Fit or something. That I looked up to her because she started like a pound above me. She was like 270 when she started, and she got down to 145. And I was like, oh my God, like I want to be like her.
Right.
And me and Steph actually made our Instagram together. It was actually the Keto McKenna's or something like that when we first opened our Instagram page. And I followed her and then a bunch of weight loss and obviously keto pages. And throughout time, it changed to the McKenna Fitness Journey. When it was still both my wife and I reached out to people like, listen, you're inspiring me. what can I do? And that's how I actually gained friends in the community, like Alex Poro and John Arpino and Ethan, Depressed and Determined, and Chelsea and Dusty. I could literally name so many. But I started reaching out to them, like, you know, pretty much actually when I first started, it was just kind of Alex and John, where if I scroll all the way back, it was like, you are inspiring me, you know, and it's crazy that now I can call them pretty much family to me. And then my wife started weeding off the page just because she doesn't have time. She was working like crazy hours. She's like, I'm not even keeping up with it. You keep it. And that's when it became McKenna Fitness, which is just mine.
Yeah.
And now it's wild that people are now messaging me, telling me I inspire and motivate them, where that was me a year ago. You know what I mean? It's wild.
Well, you're on there. You're definitely crushing it. One of the new things I want to do on this show is highlight. I like to scroll back and find the person who I'm talking to's very first Instagram post. So I scrolled all the way back and found this. This is what I'm assuming is like your intro post to the community, September 3rd, 2018, a date you mentioned earlier. And do you remember, if you had to take a guess, do you remember what you posted, what the image was?
Oh, I think it was my very first keto grocery haul. Am I lying?
This is actually a meme. I'm going to read this to you, and you tell me what it means to you, okay?
Okay.
All right. It says, the time will pass anyway. You can either spend it creating the life you want or spend it living the life you don't want. The choice is yours. What does that mean to you?
That hit so hard in the chest. I almost cried a second. It's so funny because Daryl and I spoke about this, and it's the first thing in my bio, that time is going to pass anyway.
Oh, it's in your bio.
That is the number. Yeah, the first thing that you see when you go onto my Instagram is time is going to pass anyway. That saying to me means absolutely everything, because I sat down and I was like, time is going to pass anyway. Do I want to spend it getting heavier or getting healthier? You know, and you know that's been the driving force. Day one. I can't believe I didn't remember that. I really thought it was my first grocery haul, but I'm glad it was that, because that just goes to prove that like that's been my saying since like day one, that it's just, this time is going to pass. Doesn't matter if I lose no weight this month, as long as I kept with it and I still kicked my own ass. Like, yeah, that time passed and I didn't gain anything. I didn't gain any weight. I just gained more of a, you know, myself, you know, and that's the biggest thing for me, is just time is passing, you know, let it pass the right way.
Amen. Maybe the next game I should play on the show is your second post. I don't have that in front of me, but that might be the next.
That might be my next post. I think it is.
And then the last question, this is always just a random one. What is your number one go-to workout jam? I'm sure you probably listen to some music while you're working out. What is that song or playlist or what have you?
Ooh. Okay, I like rap. I like 80s and 90s hip hop and rap, but like I also get like real ratchet at the gym. I'm trying to think of like my go-to right now.
Okay.
It would probably be anything MGK.
Okay.
AK. His thing is I am the real AK, or Jack Harlow. Those three rappers are probably my go-to on any gym day.
Okay. All right. I like it. I can say I haven't heard any of this stuff, but I will definitely be checking it out. I always like to listen to something new when I can.
Yeah, no, they're my favorite. Those are like three men that I'm obsessed with.
I remember the first time I ever heard Nipsey Hussle. This was like 2 years ago. And that just got me going. He has, his last album was called Victory Lap, but the opening track is called Victory Lap, and that shit gets me hype as fuck. So there you go.
Yep.
But so I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking some time out. One more time, give the people your Instagram handle.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. My Instagram is at McKenna, MCKENNA _ fitness.
Double underscore.
There
First you go. Well, I believe you said you're off to go cook dinner. So I will say enjoy that. And again, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for all that you shared and sharing your story with us on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, seriously, I appreciate so much coming on here. I had a great time.
It was a blast. It was an hour, just went like that.
It literally flew. I didn't even know.
Well, now we're good. We kind of know each other a little bit better now. So, and
Yep.
whoa, my God, real quick. I understand you have a podcast. See, now you almost failed. You almost didn't promote the podcast that's coming. So you better drop that real quick and then we'll go. Then I promise I'll let you go.
Okay. It is the Lesbianist podcast. So Lezi, because it's two lesbians being honest.
Okay. All right. And when is this podcast coming out by chance?
Not too sure. We have to actually record our first session. Oh, speaking of new podcasts, by the way, my friend Ethan, I know he's going to be listening. He just made a new one too. It's called Let's Talk About It. So definitely follow that as well.
I am already subbed to him.
Yeah.
Well, this podcast right here is going to be heard mid to late January. So I'm kind of thinking, I mean, if you're not coming out, we're going to send some people after you here.
I should be out by then.
Okay. All right. I promise now I'm letting you get back to your life. Thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with me today. And I will talk to you soon.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Big thanks. Big shout out to Kayla for coming on the show. I do appreciate her coming on here and hanging out. And man, what a story. What a story. Whew. How are we going to top that one? Next week on the show, we've got a music episode for you. I'm really excited for this. We're going to have John Addington on from A Small Victory. You may know the name, you may not. Either way, I have a feeling that this is going to be a really good one. I have a feeling, folks. So make sure you're tuned into that, subscribed on iTunes. Also, if you can, leave a review. Apple Podcasts. It goes a long way for this podcast. Apple puts so much stock in these reviews. Make sure you leave a review if you like the show. If you hate us, don't leave a review because that's not fun. All right. With that being said, I'm going to get out of here. Don't forget patreon.com/Gary Cantrell, hardworkalwayswins.com, code podcast, and Flying Pig Marathon, code Gary10. It's going to do it for me here for this week. I'll talk to you guys again next time. Thanks for your support, everybody.